Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial tech entrepreneur, a guy who's launched 30 companies, failed at 20 of those, and scaled 10 of those to success. And I've turned that roller coaster of a ride into my book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is where I teach you how to turn failure into your biggest competitive advantage and how custom software always played a defining role in every win. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology. We are a nearshore software engineering firm helping existing engineering teams scale. And today I am joined by Jared Crapo out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Jared has been a developer, an architect, a product expert, a COO. He's on his 9th tech startup and he's now VP of product. Jared, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
Jared, 9 tech startups. I'm gonna have to amend my book and add your stories to it. I love it. Tell us about the journey of your career.
Yeah, I started out as a developer back when software development happened on a very small screen that had glowing green letters on it. And shortly after that, I switched to product management, which I've probably done the most in my career. I've been part, as you mentioned, 9 tech startups. I was a co-founder of a startup that never earned our first dollar of revenue. And I was fortunate enough to be on the executive team of Health Catalyst, which is a healthcare data warehousing company. We were a unicorn back when that was much rarer than it is today and had a successful IPO. So I've seen lots of different versions of the startup movie.
Talk about seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Please keep going.
So most of these companies are in healthcare technology, B2B enterprise SaaS. I had one little dalliance outside of it where I worked for a company called iOne that sells software to accounting firms. And I learned that all those tricks that our investors had been trying to tell us in our healthcare companies of how things worked in other industries and they never worked in healthcare. Yeah, they all worked in accounting. And so healthcare is a unique industry with a bunch of challenges, but one that I'm very much drawn to.
Probably my company, Sonatify Technologies, 65% of our clients are healthcare and life sciences. And there's so many great things happening there that need to happen. I mean, talk about an industry that needs help, that needs disruption, that needs efficiencies. So important mission there. Now, your company, Carta Healthcare, tell us about Carta.
Yeah, so Carta Healthcare started as an AI company before large language models were a thing. And Carta is a very, what I would call niche SaaS company. If you know anyone who's ever had a bypass surgery in a hospital, for example, a pretty serious surgical procedure, long recovery, saved a lot of lives. Most hospitals in the country will submit data about those kinds of heart procedures to a national registry run by the Society of Thoracic Surgeons. And these registries are used to help improve healthcare quality in many different domains. We do the same thing for cancer. We do the same thing for low birth weight, early births. And so these kind of areas of medicine, in order to improve outcomes across a larger set of patients, hospitals contribute data to these registries, and then they receive analytics back and use that in their internal quality improvement programs. Typically, for data to be submitted to these registries, you have an army of highly trained nurses who read an anesthesia report and then answer the 1,400 questions that the Society of Thoracic Surgeons wants to know about this heart procedure. And what Carta's doing is applying technology to look at a patient's chart and try and take some of the heavy lifting of sorting and sifting and finding and searching and have the software do that so that the nurse can be much more efficient in the work that they do. We've got some exciting results. We are now using generative AI. We can generally save a nurse 25 to 50% of their time as they work through some of these cases. We believe we will always require human clinical judgment in order to get the right answers, but we've also seen tremendous benefits from using technology. So that's what Carta does. We've got 17 customers. We've never lost a customer. We're growing pretty quickly. And our customers just seem to want to do more and more business with us, which we're super fortunate.
Excellent. Well, my wife is an RN, and I can tell you, nothing more they hate than all the charting and surveys and things they have to do in the midst of their busy shifts, and really focused on taking care of the patients versus doing the paperwork. So sounds like a great thing you guys are working on.
Yeah, it's interesting. In healthcare, we have very extensively trained, highly specialized workers, doctors, nurses. And we ask them to spend a lot of their time creating chart documentation, 25 to 30% of their time, depending on who you listen to. And then you got companies like us who are using those same highly trained workers to try and extract meaning from all that chart documentation that was created. It seems like there's got to be a better way.
I like it.
Every rock you look under in healthcare, there's lots of opportunities for improvement, nook and cranny.
Now, so it looks like you've been with Carta just under a year. How did you get the role?
Yeah, so I knew the CEO and I had worked together previously at Health Catalyst, the company I mentioned earlier. And he was hired at Carta, I don't know, 18 months, almost 2 years ago, probably. And when they needed a new product leader, he called me up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm working." And here we are. So
Gotcha.
he and I had worked together. And so we're kind of well-known entities. And he felt like Carta could use some of the experience and skills that I had. And so here I am.
So your network came through for your next opportunity, which
Yeah.
is certainly the common theme. And sometimes, especially in tech, people aren't always great at keeping up with their networks. And last time I checked, you're not going to get a job like you have by just applying on LinkedIn or Indeed or on the company website.
For sure. And even for just any role in our company, I have found that using my network has been a very effective way. And when I say using my network, I don't mean a post on LinkedIn that says, "Hey, I'm hiring," and hope people reach out. It means I go through my 1,400 connections and I'm like, would this person be a good fit? Or would this person maybe know someone who might be a good fit? And I'm sending them a message right now. You send 25 or 30 of those messages, you can get a pretty good set of candidates.
Awesome. Well, tell us about some current projects you guys are working on.
Yeah, so we have kind of two meaningful projects we're working on inside of Carta right now. One of them is a kind of a meaningful evolution of our tech stack. We are evolving our data processing pipeline to use a open source product called Temporal. It was like a durable workflow execution engine, I guess maybe I would call it. It was created inside of Uber, and we're really excited about some of the capabilities that will give us and flexibility in our AI data processing pipeline. So we're kind of set out a 90-day chunk of work to make some architecture improvements and move from kind of our homegrown workflow execution, error handling to this temporal engine. So we're pretty excited about that. And we are also always neck deep in alligators and adding new clinical registries to our platform. Some of these registries are complex. They generally have between 250 and 1,000 questions, and we need to make sure that our large language models work well with all those questions. And there's lots of testing and validation and prompt engineering and all the fancy AI buzzwords, retrieval augmented generation, like all the things we're doing in our pipeline to try and get high quality answers for our users.
Gotcha. Exciting. Now, so you're VP of product, from your opinion, have you seen a lot of executives on the product side that have previous developer and architect experience prior to getting in that role?
I would definitely say I've seen some, not a lot, just because that's my background. I think that helps me call BS a little bit when our technical team is saying stuff that is hard or that I'm like, I'm not so sure. I think it makes me a better listener when they're explaining why we need to do things, right? One sort of common discussion point between product and engineering teams is engineering team shows up and says, hey, we got all this tech debt and it's going to be a real problem at some point. And I have firsthand experience. If you let that hang too long and go unaddressed, it can actually become a business problem, not a technology problem, a business problem. And sort of walking that line of, I got to invest to solve this tech debt and I'm just preventing a future problem. This is not going to get me more users. Usually it's not going to cut my cloud bill. Usually it's not going to, but it's a thing that's got to be done to help our future selves continue to scale. And so when the engineering team shows up and says, we got to do this, I think I'm a better listener because I can understand what they're talking about.
Well,
So
I see, you see in my world, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of different companies and see how product and the engineering teams work together or don't work together. And in fact, last week I was just in a meeting where the chief product officer was laying out their vision for the next gen of project and upset why the CTO hasn't been able to implement it yet. And we were in the meeting when they were going through it. And the CTO was like, number one, that's not done. And number two, we haven't even talked about this. Why are you saying is it not implemented? And I think too many times, and I think it's a great thing on the product side to ensure you understand what developers and engineers have to go through to facilitate better communication.
yeah. And on the flip side, some of the best engineers that I've ever worked with are those that want to understand how their users think, how the users use our software, what's important to them. It makes them better engineers. And so I think, that bi-directional cross-pollination, I'm a big fan of. I think product people should be more technical, and I think engineers should be more user facing. And I think it just yields better products at the end of the day.
So before the show, you had mentioned that you love to think about and solve problems at the intersection between business, tech, finance people, SG&A, R&D. Talk about that and how you go about solving those challenges, because pretty much every company has those.
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of my career kind of in product and engineering, very centric roles, but I've also been fortunate to spend some time outside of what finance people would call R&D, right? So I was the COO of a company, had responsibility for HR, legal, finance, customer success. And I think that just by being a good observer, not all companies who have great products wind up with great businesses. And not all successful businesses have great products. And it takes a lot more than having an outstanding product to have a durable company. And there's a million examples of this. I'll just share one. General Electric, arguably one of the great companies in the history of the world.
Yes.
They've had a lot of products, and the things that have made them successful today are not the things that made them successful 100 years ago. I think that one thing that is just super intellectually stimulating for me is to figure out, how do we make a good business? How do we have products that we can sell that people want to buy, which is part of making a good business? How do we deliver those solutions to our customers in a cost-effective way so that we can generate profits for our investors? I worked in, venture-backed companies my whole career, and they don't just invest money because it's fun. They need a return. And yes, we're all trying to make a difference for good in the world and create something new and amazing, but we have to have a durable business. And there are just so many interesting problems that are just bigger than, can we build a product that our users want to use? So if it costs us a ton to operate that product, if it takes us 9 months to get that product implemented inside of a healthcare company, it's not as great as products that don't take 9 months to get implemented. And so there are just so many things to think about to make a successful business that delivers real value for your customers, that your customers love. So there's a lot to think about in this.
So as a product and tech leader, as we're almost in Q4 2025, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing right now?
So large language models and generative AI I think they've been one of the places where they've made the most difference is in building new products. Vibe coding didn't exist 2 years ago, basically didn't even exist a year ago. And now it's definitely a thing. And, there's a lot of debate. Is the code that large language models produce durable? Is it maintainable? Will people who have to fix this thing 3 years from now be able to do it? Will we need humans to do it 3 years from now? Like, there are all these questions that we didn't even have to wrestle with a year or two ago. And for product management, like, we're used to historically in product management, we spend a lot of time talking to our users and watching what they do and trying to figure out how to solve their problems. And then we have to go figure out, can we even build that thing? And how long will it take? And will it work like we have in our mind's eye? And it turns out it's a lot faster to get from I have an idea to I have some sort of working software, and you can try it out way faster than we used to be able to try it out. And instead of putting, like, I'm old enough to remember when we sat down with people and did paper prototypes with a Sharpie and a legal pad. And I drew a thing, and how does that work? And if you click here and you flip the pad, well, now I can have working software and put it in front of hundreds of people over a virtual Zoom and see how they actually respond and measure what they do and see what doesn't work for them. So, like, we're trying to figure out, how do we use all these new capabilities, and can they help us build better software faster? And there's just a lot of opportunities to use these new tools to help us do better work.
Well, you look at the last 18 to 24 months in the software industry, and there's been all these claims about AI and how it's going to change things and how it's going to do. Are we going to need software engineers? What is the future going to look like? And in my opinion, it's just been the past couple months where clarity has come in. And, through this show, I have the benefit of talking with tech leaders, software leaders every day. And, my vantage point is the industry has realized a couple of things. Number one, it's phenomenal for prototyping on the product side. Just as you said, man, you can get working prototypes in a week or weeks, as opposed to what used to be months or even longer, that you can, with vibe coding with others, that you can have end users test. But, those aren't production ready prototypes, but that's all right, because when you first start and you're testing demand and want to see what users want, you can get to that a lot quicker. Then in the development cycles, I've seen the best engineering organizations are seeing 10 to 20% developer productivity in their ability to integrate it within the operations and be able to truly have benefits, which everybody's kind of been playing with it. And it's hard because whatever model you're using for that, whether it's Claude, whether it's Windsurf, whether it's Copilot, there's going to be a new version of something else that fixes a problem that the other one doesn't have. And everybody's always juggling. Do you agree or disagree with me here?
I agree with you. I think that these tools, and there's a new best one, like seemingly every week.
Yes.
And we have engineers who've played with all of them. I think it can make your best engineers better. I think it can help them try more things. I think it's really good at helping with automated testing. I think they can be really good at chasing bugs down. I think we have to continue to hire junior engineers. I think this is Jared's opinion. I think that there's an emerging trap where we're like, well, we don't need any more junior engineers because AI can do all that. All the grunt work that we used to have young engineers do, we can have large language models do that. And that might be true. The problem is, if we don't continue to train young software engineers, we're never going to have seasoned engineers, and I think we're going to need seasoned engineers forever.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Jared, a big problem out there is universities, and I'll talk specific to computer science degrees, but universities in general are having a real hard time with the concept of their students using AI because they think it breaks their ethical or cheating codes. And I know that it is hard for engineers right out of college to get jobs, let alone ones that weren't even trained how to use AI as part of it, because universities don't want to do that. And that's something the university's got to get over.
For sure. At the end of the day, here's how I think about it. I don't believe that thinking is ever going to fall out of demand.
I'm with you. And AI, as everyone's seen, has hallucinations and can come across very confident, but it needs to be guided. It needs to have, it's a great tool when you know what you're doing and you could guide it along the way.
And, they're trained not to say, I don't know.
Right.
And
Exactly.
someone's got to be able to say, yeah, you gave me an answer here, but I just don't know. Like, I think there's a critical thinking skill that will always be in demand, no matter
You
how
know,
good the technology gets. And it will continue to get great and better and better and better. But I
it
think
would be nice if LLMs, when they give you answers, they had like a percent accuracy estimation on it.
this is
Uh,
this is what our users want. Our users want to know, how confident are you that this answer you just gave us is correct? And I'm like, well, if I knew that, then I could just give you the right answer, right? It's
that's
a
right.
super hard problem, but that's what
Exactly.
our users want. They want to know, how confident is the machine that this answer I'm giving is correct. That's what they want.
Yep, no doubt. Now, from a pure product side, what AI tools do you guys like on the product side to help you, prototype quicker, assess end user requirements?
Yeah, I think we've used sort of a wide range of the common tools. We use and have tried out and experimented with all the sort of the leading coding tools: Cursor, Windsurf, Claude Code, and so on. I found them not that great at user interface design. We've done some experimenting there. I haven't, and it's probably just because I'm not as good a prompt writer as I should be, but we haven't gotten that great of results on kind of our user interface experimentation. But we use Claude for a lot of things, and it's really great. It's expensive, but it's really great. And, we've used many of these kind of second tier tools that, use the frontier models inside of them, tools like Klein and so forth. And we've had some pretty good results using those kind of tools. I think for me personally, a must have is, and it doesn't matter which one, but get Fathom or Otter or Fireflies or whatever, the meeting note taker tool, the AI powered meeting note taker tool. Those are great. Like when we're in product role and we're interviewing users, I don't have to take notes anymore. I can just listen to them, focus on what they're saying, and I get these outstanding product summaries or meeting summaries out of the end. And then we take a whole bunch of those and load them into Notebook LM. And now I can ask it any questions about the dozen interviews that I've had with users this week. So those tools have been just tremendous from a product perspective.
And you've been able to 100% rely on those without taking your own notes?
I no longer take my own notes when I'm interviewing users.
I don't know if I'm too old school or what, and I do love those tools, but I have a hard time not still taking my own notes and comparing.
Yeah. So
It would help me if I could get over that.
So what I do, the best of these tools, they do two things for you. They generate a transcript, and then they also generate an AI summary. And I have often found that the AI generated summary doesn't have everything that I want or isn't exactly what I remember, but I can always go back to the transcript. And I frequently do that and find things that were important to me that were not in the AI generated summary. So that's my safety net, is I can always go back to the transcript, and then I can review that when I don't have the other person in front of me.
I
And I
like it.
found it works really great for me.
I like it. Jared, thank you so much for getting uncensored with us today. I love the diversity you have in the many aspects of not over engineering and product, but also being involved in 9 different startups and playing different roles, from chief operating officer to technical to product roles. I love it. We need more people like you with that experience to push products out quicker. Before we wrap, Jared, what's your final no BS advice for today's tech leaders out there who are trying to build, scale, or even just survive in these interesting times?
Keep after it, man. Great products are built with iteration, not with a big bang. It's just a long grind. You just got to keep after it and keep iterating, and you'll end up with a great product.
Love it. Jared, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, well, we'll just share it with your competitors. Might be the edge that they're looking for. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time.
That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.